Good morning and welcome to the Mama's Den. We have a little different situation today. This is Cody. And who are you?
Oh, sorry. It's Ashley here.
And Felicia's out because doing mom duty stuff.
Yep.
And Melanie's had a house emergency.
Yeah.
So we are very fortunate to have a very good friend of Ashley's. Her name is Tiffany, and that's about all I know about her. Welcome, Tiffany.
Hi, everyone.
So introduce yourself.
Yes, tell us your motherhood, like how many kids,
Yeah.
how old, where do you live?
Yeah, so Tiffany, I don't have a cute tag name, so it's just Tiff O, if you really want to know.
That was literally a cute tag name.
Yes, that was.
Okay, great. I have one child, and she is Kyla. She is also Ashley's oldest daughter, Mira's best friend. So all the stories that you probably hear,
This is
about
Kyla's
them. I
mom.
am Kyla's mom.
Yes, it's Kyla's mom.
I
Boy, the way Ashley doesn't tell me shit. Y'all.
It makes for better TV.
Yes, I am Kyla's mom. No one knows me as Tiffany.
No.
I am Kyla's mom. So
That's
that is
true.
who I am, and she is my only one.
She is.
Wow, this just the whole vibe just changed. You know, Crystal said earlier, is that Kyla's mom? And I was like, I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard her name.
Really?
Because
Yeah.
I'm just
I
Kyla's
know.
mom.
I feel bad.
And
I'm
actually, I
sorry.
see it now in your face. Even though I've only seen Kyla on Instagram.
Yeah.
I see her in your face.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She looks like her.
Because sometimes she gets that she looks like her dad. And I'm like, no, she looks like.
She like both of y'all.
Okay, great.
Oh, guys.
Yeah. This is my homie. Since we were 3 years old,
3
we've
years
known each
old
other.
homies, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm,
Okay, I don't even know where to begin.
I mean,
Oh, okay. Well, then I know we have a lot of like you to talk about,
Yes,
but
yes.
can we just rewind? Because I think the world knows Kyla and Amira.
They do.
Right? So how did we start with these epic surprises? Like help me. Do
I don't even know.
you remember the first time you guys surprised them?
When we moved, right?
When you guys moved?
I think it was when we moved, and I think we came back home. I think that was like the first, and we surprised Kyla.
We did.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was the first
time.
surprise.
Okay, so backstory. These two ladies on the gram, if y'all haven't seen yet, like fly in town and surprise their daughter with the other. and tears ensue, and the mamas clearly laugh at them for crying. But it's adorable and beautiful. So
It
tell me
is.
the first time you guys did this.
So, okay, we moved. Well, more backstory. Tiffany and I met when we were like 3-4 years old. Her grandmother has a dance company, African dance company called the Imani Dancers. And her grandmother is like the most beautiful, amazing woman in the whole world. Like just everything. And so her and I and Nalo, everybody knows who Nalo is, we all were in her grandmother's dance company. So that's how we met. And we kind of grew up together, like dancing, being in like the African community programs. Then fast forward, we ended up going to high school together. I walked up to her just asking like we hadn't seen each other probably in I want to say like 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a while. And so I walked up to her. Now, I want you to understand that I know her. I know her family. Our families are super duper close. And I was like, aren't you, what did I say?
Aren't you Sister
Aziz's granddaughter? She turned around and looked at me and was like, no. And then turned walked away. And then like I went home and I told my mom and she was like, what? That was so dumb, Ashley. And I was like, I hadn't been in public school. So I was like so nervous and it was somebody that I knew. And I just like said the dumbest thing. But anyways, we became friends again. We ended up going to college together. Then when I moved to New York, I called her to tell her that I was pregnant. And she was like, I am too. And then I told her my due date. And our due dates were like 5 days away from each other. So then it was like, okay, we're raising our daughters together. And from there, it was all she wrote. Like literally from the moment they were born, their first birthday, they spent every birthday together.
Okay, when were they actually born? What are the birthdays?
March 12th and...
March 17th.
Oh, so did y'all have these babies on the due date?
No, I actually went past my due date.
And I went ahead of my due date.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they ended up being born 5 days apart. And my mom started, so she went back to work. I went back to work. My mom started homeschooling them. So she was homeschooling Amira and Kyla and a few of our other friends. They were together every single day, literally every day until we moved to California.
Okay, so how old was Amira? How old were both the girls when you
6.
moved?
They were 6.
They were 6.
Yeah, because I was.
Yep, they were 6.
She was 6 when we got married. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
6. Yeah.
So 6. That was what year? You mean like
2015.
Okay.
14, 15. Yeah.
Oh, because we got pregnant in 2016.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's 2015.
So 2015, Ashley, Chia, Amira moved to California and give me the first surprise.
We went back to Ohio because we were planning our wedding. And so we had to keep going back to Ohio, Chia and I. And I just like didn't tell Amira that we were going. And we didn't tell Kyla. And we rolled up and there were tears. And I was like, we have to do this for that one.
Yeah.
Like that's how they're going to greet each other. Because they not only spent every day together for school, but on the weekends. Like they were
inseparable.
Yes.
They were definitely inseparable. Yeah.
They are the 2 best friends that anyone could have.
Yeah. They were each other's, like they were only children. So again, they really meshed with each other well. And I would say this, although 5 days apart in Pisces, they can be the most extreme of each other. So Amira has always been the wild one. She's the one who's going to cartwheel in the grocery store. She's going to sing, dance, laugh. She's going to entertain the people. Okay. All the time. Kyla is the protector. She is the one who is going to get Amira out of trouble. She is the one who's going to
doesn't get in trouble.
She is going to pull Amira away from things. She is going to protect. Yes. And I will say this. Amira is still that same girl. She is just a little bit more reserved. So backstory as well. I'm going to fast forward to yesterday.
Yes.
Yesterday. The same dynamic as far as like Kyla is the protector. Amira is just going to just go. So we're in the hotel. There's matches. Don't know why, but there's just matches sitting there. And so they grab some matches and they're like, oh, we want to see what the matches are. They're 14. Have the matches. You're not going to blow up anything or set anything on fire. So we think. So we think. So Kyla grabs the matches. Amira proceeds to grab the matches and we're giggling and laughing and walking to the car. Well, Amira proceeds to light the match in her new house and they have to walk out. So Kyla's protector. So she's like, pulling her outside to like
right.
That's why she pulled her out.
So she's pulling her outside. It's like, you cannot light this match in this house and you cannot drop it in this house. So Kyla's like pulling her outside. They go outside, they're cackling and they take the fire out. So I'm like, give me the matches. Give me the matches.
So it was like just a lit match?
They just sparked the match. Yes.
Currently being renovated home?
Yes. This full of fumes and pain and Amira.
So I tell that story to
say. This is a side of Amira.
Amira is going to, she is just going to go out and do anything and she's going to cast that net wide and Kyla's like, reel it in.
Yeah.
Reel it right on in.
Yeah. So, she needs her. That is the yin to her yang. I don't really share a lot about Amira's, that side of her ever because it stresses me out. But she is just like my sister who is kind of like act first, think later. That's always been her personality. And it deeply stresses me out because she just is like, I don't know where she's at, but she don't be here. She's in her head a lot. Very like, I wouldn't say she's in like airheady, but it is. She's book smart, but like not street smart. And I feel like that's how she's always been. Like she memorizes anything. She's a grade ahead, but baby, she walks into the wall every day.
She is very whimsical. She is very butterflies, fairy tales, whimsical.
Yeah, light a match, not think about how it could actually cut something on fire. She just kind of is just a doer. She's just
a doer.
Yeah, she looks at the ocean is probably like, what's down there? Let me go see. Not like Kyla's more like, that's dangerous. She's like, let's find out how dangerous it really is.
Hilarious.
Right. Remember I said that about your backyard?
Yeah.
I was like, that backyard, when you moved into it and showed us on
FaceTime.
camera.
Yep.
FaceTime. I was like, Amira's going to just be down there. It's just like, what's
She
back
said
here?
She said that. She's like, I just want to jump down there and just like walk
Oh my
around.
God, I still haven't been.
Yes, you need to come.
I can come this weekend.
Okay, you can come any day, honey.
Okay, yeah.
Yay.
Okay, I'm curious. How has Kyla responded to like Ashley having all these kids? Like they were the only children. They were sisters. They are sisters. You know what I mean? But like then Ashley out here just dropping babies.
I know.
I never thought about that.
No, those are her sisters too.
Yeah.
I would say Azara really thinks Kyla is her best friend.
Girl.
She really thinks Kyla is her best friend. To this, like, she will shyly like shy away from it.
Mhm.
But she's like, where's Kyla staying? Why isn't Kyla going? Like if I come into the house, she's like, Aunt Tiffany, when are you leaving? Why are you taking Kyla? Like it's always, I can't come into the house and just be comfortable. I got to answer Azara's questions about what am I doing with my child?
Yeah.
And Azara is a person who will negotiate as far as, can she come over here after school, or does she even have to go to school? Like, it's like she is the negotiator of the situation and tries to get things to happen her way. So she really thinks like she is her. Now, Asia is probably Kyla's baby. So she's like, she wants to always play and do stuff with her. And I would say equally from both the kids as well. Or all the kids, I should say. But they are her sisters too. She doesn't like feel, I think, any differently. I think that sometimes because Kyla still she's a nurturer. She has a niche for nurturing like little things. Amira's like, okay, so when am I getting my time? Because you are playing with them way too long sometimes, or like you're doing this way too long. But yeah, those are her sisters too. Like she doesn't feel any different, I don't think.
That's good.
Because she has all of the things.
I love it. And I love how they all are like, maybe whether they know it or not, just like so vulnerable in their like love and care for each other.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
So, okay. Another thing Ashley shared. I know that Ashley, when you got pregnant, your sister had passed, a year prior? And then she shared that when you got pregnant, I think you lost your brother?
Yes.
And so I'm curious, and Ashley knows this. My father passed a month before I met my husband. And then I got pregnant like 2 years later. I mean, I didn't even think about that distance too. But like, there's an element of new life and like how am I processing what I've lost. And so I'm curious, how much has that played into you all's relationship? Kyla and Ashley? Kyla. Can I call you Kyla?
Kyla's mom. Just call me Kyla's mom.
Kyla's mom, Tiffany and Ashley. How have you all supported each other and or yourself, period? Like, you know what I mean? Friends can't be everything to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great question. So I remember I hadn't had any friends like have family members that passed. Rebecca was the first funeral and the first friend like I had to experience that with. So I didn't know that, right? Like I just knew that I had to be there. So keep in mind, like my brother and Rebecca also danced and drummed and things like that together. So it was when we say it's a community, it was a community of us. But I knew that I obviously wanted to show up and be there, of course, for Ashley, but I didn't know what that felt like. I didn't know. I hadn't had to experience it. I didn't know until I had to experience it. So I experienced it about a year later. And just like Rebecca, my brother passed, very tragic and very sudden. It wasn't like a sickness or anything like of that. So
were you pregnant at that point no?
So I just had Kyla.
Okay.
I just had Kyla. She was 2 months old when my brother passed away. The hardest thing was that I have no pictures of my brother ever holding her. And he only got to spend a short amount of time with her. And so that's one thing, if I could go back in time, is like, I really wish I would have gotten a picture of just them two together or them just together. But my brother was like my father. He was like my father figure. So he was the oldest brother. Although I had a stepfather, he was still a protector of us. And let me go back a little bit. So when I had to announce that I was pregnant.
Not had to.
I had to announce that I was pregnant. My mother was the first person, and she was about the easiest. My brother who passed away was the last person by strategy because he was going to be the hardest person to tell because he was my protector. Yeah. He was a person who looked out. He was all of those things. And I remember my brother saying, so what's Dude going to do? And he knew Kyla's father. He knew that we were in a relationship. And by that moment, he didn't care what his name was. He's just like, what's Dude gonna do? So I remember that very vividly because he is a person who's like, I want to make sure she's taken care of. I want to make sure that those things happen. So when he passed, it took me, I had so much going on. I think I had like 6 major events happen at that time. Like I was a new mother. I was 13 days after having Kyla, I was back in school on campus. I was moving. I was in a relationship. We were moving in together. I mean, there was a bunch of things. I had a new job. Like there were 6 different events that were happening at the same time. So I never had an opportunity to like be. I was always like in the move of like going. And part of that, and I say that to myself today, like I literally was walking in depression. Like, and I didn't know it then. Like, you just kind of keep going. And it was only about a year later, on his birthday. He passed May 20th of 2009, and his birthday is April the 14th. So on his birthday was the first time that I wailed for 2 hours straight, like 2 hours straight.
A year later, not the first
about a year.
birthday.
Yeah. So it was. And it was, I think, well, I know it was just all of those emotions just flooding of like how I missed him and how I wanted. And again, the stages of grief and all of those things happen at different moments of time. But I never got an opportunity to just like be and settle because I had all of these things happening at that time. And I just had to make sure that I had to keep going. Now, I do thank God that he did give me Kyla, though, for those moments of like, she has such a calm and somber, and she was so easy as a kid. Like when I say easy, she was so easy as a kid. And I think part of that is just because she probably knew like I needed that type of either energy or I just needed calmness either around me in order to just like, I shouldn't say survive, but like to get out of that funk of depression, which I now call it functional depression, of course, like walking depression. But I didn't know that then.
Yeah. So would you say that 1 year point, like, how did that 2 hours of wailing, like, was that a turning point for you? Or was that just like a note that like, wow, I really need to get that out?
It was a wow, I really needed to get that out. And I think it started the healing process of like truly understanding like what has happened to me. And then also like really being careful and mindful of like Ashley, right? Like, again, I never experienced it. So I didn't know what she was ever going through. And she's almost 2 years in at this point. And it just allowed me to just be more understanding and compassionate. Like losing a sibling is hard.
Yeah.
Like it is hard.
Her brother went to college with us too.
Yes.
So like she saw him every day in college with his son. He was in family housing, remember? And it was like her brother was like, I don't know, it's still hard to explain, but you know those people that just are so nice to everybody and they just have such a good spirit. So it's like if you feel that and you're not even related to them, then the love that he had for his sister, it was like everybody knew they couldn't mess with Tiffany. That was just like in the whole city, like that's her, that, you know what I'm saying? That's her brother. Like you didn't mess with her. The Oversons, we just knew like they were a tight knit family and it is what it is. So I think it was really hard for me. You remember we just had a talk, I feel like, was it last year or 2 years ago, where we really talked about what happened that day. That was the first time in all these years. So this is what, almost 13 years later, that we actually talked about what happened the day he passed and like her experience. And we were just sitting there crying because we had never even broached that conversation. It was always like, I knew her brother passed away. I knew what happened. And she knew my sister passed away. And we were just moms,
right,
helping each other. But we didn't really talk about our grief a lot. We just kind of like put all of our energy into our daughters and make sure they had this beautiful, loving life and relationship together. And we never discussed our grief ever. It was like on the anniversaries of their death, give each other a call. But like, that was it. Yeah.
Do you all feel like healing is a journey? To me, like it's not a destination, you know. Do you all feel like in 14, 16 years, right, you have actively worked on your healing or just surviving?
Oh, you could go first.
Especially as moms, where it's easy to just get distracted and focus on somebody else. I got to make this money. I got to make this breakfast.
Well, wait, let me ask you this. How do you feel about that? Because that would be interesting. Like,
I feel like half and half.
Okay.
There are times when there are it's a good question. I'm glad I asked. I feel like most of the time I'm surviving.
Yeah.
And I feel like there are things about like my dad and the last couple of years that I try to just block out. So when my dad was sick, so I had time with like that information. He had gotten married to someone who was not my mother. My parents actually got divorced when I was like 12. So at this point I'm, I don't know, in my late 20s, mid to late 20s, and he got remarried. So they were married for 6 years before he passed, and dating a couple of years before that. And so him being married to this woman and how that all happened is definitely the worst part of the story for me. The worst part of my memories. Child, that's a story for another day. But so many parts of him being sick, I have to just be like, I'm not talking about that.
Oh, wow.
Or just block it out, because both his illness and how it impacted him and her made him different at times. And sometimes it was hard to decipher, like, what's what here? Are you in a lot of pain, or are you being influenced? Anyway, so those are things that I just try not to think about. You know, for me, my dad not being present in my life, like not being there, not meeting my kids, not meeting my husband, child, see? Mm-hmm. So a lot of times I'm just surviving because I try not to think about these things. So I get it, if that's your answer too. But I do try to work on healing.
Yeah.
I do try to be active when I can. I try to move through my feelings and not simply block them out. Like I said, most of the ones I block out are about this woman.
Yeah.
But the things that I am sad about, I try to move through them in the healthiest way possible, like consciously.
Yeah.
And I think for me, which, you know, I'd love for you guys to talk about this too. It's like being able to talk about him, especially with my children.
Yeah.
And it's easier and fun with them because, like, I know they're going to ask whatever they want to ask, and it might be weird or uncomfortable, but it's like an opportunity to think through my response and, like, you know.
Yeah.
So they're probably the most fun to talk about him with.
Yeah.
But those are opportunities for me to just continue his legacy. Like, I look at them as his legacy.
Yeah.
So
I asked you that because I feel like, you know, you have some trauma around your dad's death, and I have trauma around my sister's death. Tiffany has trauma around her brother's death. And I have a similar situation with the person my sister was with. I hate him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's like the only person that I would actively say that I hate.
Word.
And it sucks because that affected my relationship with my nephew, and that affected my healing process. And the blocking out is part of why, when you ask that, I feel like I'm just surviving, because I would say I probably have really broached true healing.
Yeah.
Maybe the last couple of years, where I'm really like opening up my feelings and just having those conversations with myself, having those memories with myself, allowing myself to be angry at him, at my sister for choices that she made to be with him.
Right. That
you know
part.
what I mean? Like, because there was that, because if she wasn't with him, I still feel like she wouldn't be dead. So there's that whole situation. And so, you know, when you lose someone, but you have anger, it's so hard because you just want to focus on, the positive.
Yeah.
But you know that there is a feeling or an anger or whatever surrounding their death that you kind of refuse to acknowledge because that's just different. Then that feels weird, and it feels like not right to do because they're dead.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Because you want to just remember the good times and tell your kids about the good stuff. But like, there's some hurt still there.
Yeah.
So I would say that I'm just surviving because I have to acknowledge everything. I have to acknowledge the pain I feel with her choices. Then I have to acknowledge the relationship I didn't get to have with my nephew because I was angry at his father. And then I have to sit with myself with that. Like, was that the right choice? And it's too late. Can't do anything about that now. He's grown. So now I have to try to heal that relationship. And it's just so much trauma that comes with it that when my nephew just graduated from college, I didn't even go to the graduation because I didn't want to be around his dad. And I just sent him money. And even that was like, I am not healing because I can't even look at him. I only want to hear his voice.
Yeah, girl. All of that.
And that made me sad because I feel like I was disappointing my sister. Like, I didn't go to my nephew's graduation, and she would do that for me. She would show up, and there would be no one that could make her feel uncomfortable enough to be like, I'm not going to be there for my sister or her kids. And I chose not to go. And I paid for my whole family to go except for me. Yeah. Flew my mom, my sister, my brother, my dad, my daughter, even Amira went.
That's good. I mean, look, the reality is that's still something.
I know.
Because you have to remind yourself that you did all of that for him.
Yeah.
And you also have to, like, set your personal boundaries. If you're not ready to be around dude, then, like, cool. And maybe it's about actively finding a way for you and your nephew to have time elsewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But being intentional about that, not letting another year go by and it's like, well, they were all there, right? You know, like
no. He's in college now, so I can have a completely separate relationship with him, which is sad, but I literally waited for him to get to college because I was like, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
What about you, Tiff?
So I think that I am in a healing process. So my brother was tragically murdered by children, 17-year-old, during a home invasion. And his calling and his work, what he was trying to do is mentor and save those types of children. So I think there's some irony behind it. But I also felt when I was even younger, and I think I shared this with you as well, I knew that one of my brothers were going to pass away. I just didn't know which one. It was something, there are certain senses and things that I get. It's really, I shouldn't say weird, but there's just some certain things that come to me, which I knew that one was going to pass. So not to say that it was something that I was ready for at all. Yeah. It's just something that I felt within my spirit that I knew was going to happen. And so I gave that anger away for the person who murdered him. He is sitting in jail and I was actually able to address him in court. But I gave that anger away. And that's just because I believe in a greater God of the spirit, right? So I really believe that he had taken him really to be an angel. And I feel like he still has an aura and a guidance around me, around my family, that still is prevalent. And he is really coined, as I actually mentioned before, when I was in 9th grade, when she asked me a dumb question, I said no. And I will say this, I wasn't the nicest person. Like I was not mean and malicious. I just was not the kindest person. However, I would say my brother is a polar opposite of that. Like he is the epitome, as she said, of like niceness. He wants to help everybody. He wants to do everything for everybody. He is the savior of all. Like he was the man. Yeah. And so I really coin and I really want to live more like him. And I think after his death was a way for me to honor that. Like I have really worked on myself to just be nicer or kinder or just kind of giving back and like doing those things that really was in him. And I still talk to him or I still, pray with him. I feel like, so there are certain things that allow me to just remember him and or just to honor him. In a different light than what I was able to be physically. Now I was angry at the beginning, right? Because we always miss our people and our physical being, but I still, I feel his aura. I feel his energy is like, it's a different type of connection versus like his physical being. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful. And frankly, I had never thought about the notion of like the baggage we carry around people's choices and when they pass, we're dealing with the grief of losing a person, but also the unfinished conversations and controversial events. Like as much as I have all of that, I've really never thought about those two things because I work to be like, I don't want to talk about that part. Yeah. You know what I mean? Fuck her.
To the death.
Like for real. So yeah, I'm going to have to unpack that another day.
We were talking about this yesterday. Tiffany and I were talking about like ofrendas and like altars. And so my grandmother always had an ofrenda. She had all the photos of our family members and like a little altar underneath it. And I was talking about how I know family members that I never met because their stories were always kept alive. And so we were just,
Coco.
Okay. Mama Coco. Shout out to Hattie, my grandma. Not remember.
It was like, who is Hattie? Okay.
My grandma, Hattie Lay. So I was saying to Tiff, like, do you have pictures of your brother up, or do you have pictures of your father up, and do you talk about his story to your children? And like, is that something that you do within your home?
The short answer is yes. We had a fire. So we don't have anything up in the current house. I don't think anything at all. But we did in the previous house. Okay. And we do talk about him. But I don't do it as much or as intentionally as I would like.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'll take opportunities. So Langston wanted to be a doctor. Actually, I bought a bunch of costumes for Halloween. One of them was a doctor and Langston really took to it. And so I'm like, your grandfather was a doctor and, Dr. Brooks. And then Brooks is like, oh, well, he knew that already too. But like, so I like to talk to them about that. But I do need more imagery around.
Yeah, I think that's super important.
Yeah, I'm really not a picture person in the house. I don't know why. I just haven't been, but for whatever reason. But it'll change, hopefully, one day. But no, I don't have any pictures up. However, even when we were young, even when she was young, we always would say we were going to go visit Uncle Randy. Everyone knows Uncle Randy in his stories and all that stuff. So we never disguised of like going to the gravesite. We go to it often. We'd just sit there, put flowers there, just pray, whatever. So it's not a foreign thing by any means. My mother has a bunch of pictures up. And she's always at my mom's here and there. So there are different spaces, I think, where she gets it, just not physically in my home because I don't even have pictures of like me and her. Don't ask questions.
Do you have frames with just like the stock photos in them or just no frames either?
Just no frames.
Okay.
It's 2023. You know what I mean? A lot of people, it's like digital. I'm very much a print a photo and put it in a frame person.
Me too.
But everybody's not like that.
I'm going to print some photos off for you.
I'm going to get like that. Maybe.
In your new house. Okay. My friend who is a single mom purchased a new house, built it from the ground up. Okay.
Yes.
And we're going to get some photos in your ground up house.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, girl. Get those photos. Just get them.
I love that. Okay, so you just bought a house or just built a house, excuse me, from the ground up. Now this one over here, Ashley, Nicole, Hinton, Sarah. Wrong order. Okay, Sarah, Hinton.
Ashley, Sarah, Nicole, Chia.
Damn, I got it all wrong.
It's
Nicole,
okay.
Hinton,
We're not going to put Hinton, Chia.
That was my graduation. Hinton Lay.
Hinton Lay. Funny story. In high school, they gave her 2 last names. I don't know what her mama did, but she swore by she only had 1 last name. I was like, no, it's written in the books that you have 2 last names. So anyway,
Hinton Lay?
Yeah.
What's what?
My last name is Hinton, but what happened was that my parents...
Her mama didn't want to give up that last name.
No. My mom and dad were there when I was born, but they they weren't married. So they filled out the birth certificate and put my mom's last name on it. So
which one? She's Hinton.
No, Lay.
She's Lay.
Yeah,
okay.
so when my original birth certificate says Ashley Nicole Lay.
Okay.
And so then they had to go downtown. Like she has 2 middle names and her last name is not Lay, it's Hinton. So then...
Once they got married?
No, my parents never got married.
Oh, I thought they did.
No, girl.
Huh.
My daddy got married when I was 2 years old and didn't even tell my mom. And she found out when his brother came knocking on the door. She's like, why are you in town? He's like, oh, I went to Wilbur's wedding. Shout out to my dad.
This sounds a lot like my dad's wedding. But carry on.
Yes, but we're here now. It's fine. Everybody's fine. And we chill.
That's a whole healing process.
They never got married.
So she just decided to let him add his name?
My mom met her dad when she was 15. So she was like very adamant that we would have a relationship with my father and we were going to have my dad's last name. So we were supposed to have his last name.
Right.
Rebecca had his last name. They just decided to put my mom's last name on the birth certificate.
Oh, she didn't do that.
Yeah, she didn't fill it out. They filled it out.
Got it.
So they had to go downtown and change. They had to schedule a court date and change my last name to Hinton. But for some reason, I had a social security card that said Hinton on it and a birth certificate that said Lay. So when I went to high school, my diploma said Hinton Lay on it.
That's hilarious.
It was a whole thing.
You got a lot of names, sis.
I do not.
I didn't forgot my. No, I remember my question now. And so a couple of weeks ago, we were sitting here. Ashley was right there in that chair, and she burst into tears.
Oh my God!
Over the fact that in just 4 years, Amira will be headed off to college. So I'm curious. How are you? Do you think about that, Tiffany?
I do. So, okay. So Ashley will often tell me sometimes that I am not a helicopter mom. I don't know what she calls it. It's somewhere between like helicopter and
strict as hell.
No, no, I am not strict.
That's
Tiffany.
Why Kayla's a rule follower. Kyla, shoot.
Is the most well-behaved child I've ever met in my entire life. Hands down, Tiffany is a better mom than all of us. Just so we're clear. Like, I'm not exaggerating. She is top tier. She needs to write a parenting book, and her daughter does not misbehave.
Not work out for everybody.
Period.
It's okay. So I will say this. So I I'm between this stage, and we've had this conversation probably about 6 months ago. So I'm between the stages of making sure that she is protected, but giving her the opportunities so that she's not feeling so much in a bubble, like of the world, right? And it's finding that median of like where to do those things at in spaces. So was it last year? I think last year this was started the conversation. So last year, her school did a skating rink party, right? And so some kids were like, parents dropped them off, cool, whatever. I actually took her and a couple of her friends and we went skating together, right? And it never crossed my mind that I was just going to leave her at the skating party by herself. And until I seen kids that were just being dropped off, I was like, man, I was actually at this age where my mom or somebody else's parent was dropping me off and we were in the skating rink and we knew we had time to, when it was over, you picked up your stuff, you went outside, your parents was outside. But it never dawned on me like I should have done that for her. And so I'm like, so what age do I do that? Because we had this conversation, like, what age do I do that? Like, I'm so confused of like, where do I do? And so I'm like, I'm going to find an opportunity to do that. So this new age thing, probably about 2 months ago, Kyla asked me like, hey, mom, would you allow me to go to the mall and walk around with my friends? And I was like, no, like it was a hard, she was like, instinct. No. And she was like, but why? My friends. And I was like, those aren't my children. And that's fine that they allow them to do that. But those are not my children. And then I had to like step back and think like, at what age would I allow that to happen? Like, I don't know. And so I'm like, in my mind, I was like, oh, here's a compromise. In my mind, I'll let her walk around, but I'll just be there. Like, I'm never going to drop her off at the mall. The mall is just like, it's the kids' hangout spot. And if you come to Columbus, those kids just brawl in the mall for no reason sometimes.
Girl, it's always on the news.
Always on the news. They brawl in the mall. I don't know. My. But anyway, so this was her birthday. Last Friday was her birthday. And so I took her and a couple of friends, and I should say friends, my nieces and my little cousin. And I was in a whole nother store and I allowed them to walk around. Now, Easton is an indoor and outdoor mall. So they had rules. They could not go outside in the mall. They had to stay within the mall. And then everybody had to go out of the store at the same time. Everybody had to go in the same store all the time. Their purses had to be closed near to them. There was certain rules, right, for them to do this. And so I was in a store, y'all. I stood at this t-shirt for like 10 minutes in full anxiety. I had to text the group chat where I had all the friends. I was like, y'all, I am having a full, like, I'm losing it. Like, I don't know I'm literally texting them like, I have so much stress going on right now. I literally sat at that shirt and stared at it for like 10 minutes.
Are you about to cry?
Yes, I see it too. But I get it. Like, I get it.
But she was around a bunch of people and it wasn't just her. Yeah. I was just more like, they're out of sight. Like, I don't know where they're at. They're out of sight. And when I tell you the joy that they had, they were like, this was the funnest day. Like, we had so much fun. And Kai was like, this was such a good birthday. And all it was just mall and BJ's. Like, BJ's is just like, okay, it's a tear up from Applebee's, but it was just like a little hangout.
We got a BJ's here.
We got a BJ's. Yeah. Okay, great.
That's like Dave and Buster's kind of thing.
No, it's like pizza and Pizookie.
Yes.
Okay, I know
exactly.
Yes.
So, but they had like such a good time. So I am at that space where like I really want her to explore the world and not be so close-minded because there is a world out there that she needs to make sure that she can navigate. Like, know what I mean? And those types of things. Yeah. But I also am in a space where I want to protect her. So I'm twofold. I'm halfway there. I'm not even halfway there. Let me stop lying to people. I am maybe like a quarter of there.
I was going to say, I feel like you're not even thinking that far. Because if you're
not crying on the t-shirt at the mall. Right, exactly. You ain't thinking about your baby going to college.
I am a quarter of there of trying to be more mindful of giving her like spaces to explore and like to do, because I tell her all the time, it's not that I don't trust you. I don't trust the world.
Yeah.
Like, I don't trust the world.
That's so hard for them to understand, because I've not, maybe while they're here, I'll let Kyla and Amir go to the mall. We can just like sit in the store and let them walk around. I'm gonna let them have that moment together.
Sure.
But that's hard for me too, because Amira, again, she be wandering. And I think that's mostly why I'm scared to let her do stuff. But I'm like, well, she's going to have to learn how to trust herself and to make mistakes.
That day that you let her go to Starbucks, was she by herself?
She was with Kyla.
She was with Kyla. That's what I thought.
They walked. Whoa.
Girl, the way that I tell that story to everyone, I told that story yesterday for the record. I certainly did.
Did you tell them?
I didn't ask Tiffany's permission before I let them do it. I
Oh,
told her
she
after
called
they
me.
did it.
She called me and I was like, Ashley, you let them do what? I was like floored. I was like, girl, do not tell me. What did you let them do? Now I know the proximity of Starbucks in the house, but boy, oh boy, I have never let her like walk down the street. Like, you know what I mean? Do those things. And I was just like, what did you done let my child do? And Kyla was like, yesterday, she's like, we did it like 5 times. 5 times!
Kyla, why is she telling on me, dang?
Yes. So I will say this. Apparently, Kyla might think I'm a little strict. She does say like, you're strict. I'm really not strict. I just like, I like structure. I do like structure. Like she still has a bedtime.
Word.
And she's 14.
Right.
So does
But
my
this is
daughter.
the yeah, but this, well, that's great. I mean, not all parents do that either. I'm just
Oh,
saying
no,
that.
I know
But
they
people think
don't.
that I'm crazy because I can be like, so I just want to make sure she knows. Like, I still make my daughter pay me back. If you tell me you want Starbucks or you're going to pay me back, run me my money.
Yes.
So it's just like, it's just making sure that she's
Yeah.
responsible of like what she's saying and what she's doing. And I make her sure she has a bedtime because if you fail in school, it's not because you're going to be sleepy.
Yeah.
It's going to be because of other things that we can fix. It's not, it's
Yeah,
those types of
that's
things.
fair.
So yeah, but that whole Starbucks thing took me for a whole loop when she told me. I was like,
I tell that story all the time because like I have a long time to think about it, and maybe not as long as I think I do, but like the reality that at some point you like have to let go and let them do something, whether it is a completely structured walk to Starbucks that they've done a million times with
Yeah.
us. You know what I mean? I was talking to this older woman this weekend, that's last weekend at a brunch, and her kid, she lives near me, and one of her kids goes to school in like West Hollywood and the other one goes to school in like Santa Monica. She takes one of them to school in the car every day. The other one, she takes him to the train and he takes the train to school. And this is like 9th or 10th grade.
Oh, wow.
But like, that's the only way to get it done,
Yeah.
right? And she's like, he has to learn how to like get where he needs to go,
That's true.
keep his head on a swivel, and he gets off the train. There's a grocery store near the school. He goes in the grocery store to get like a bagel before he goes, like
wow.
all of that. And she knows everything he's doing.
Yeah.
And it like blew my mind, but that was the conversation that we had was like, at some point, like, you have to give them the independence so that they learn to trust themselves, so that you learn to trust them. I'm not ready for none of it. That's why I keep saying it over and over again. So I'm like, well, Ashley did it, and I know she real scary.
No, Amira's school, the one she's going to, when they did a tour, the kids were like, "Oh, there's a Starbucks down the street," and I was like, "Just so you're clear, we're not walking off the campus." So that's never happening. Not in 9th grade. I said, maybe by the time you're a senior, then you can go off campus and go and get a snack. But I already had to have the talk because she told me she was so excited about that. They were like, yeah, and sometimes on lunch, I was like, I will pop up at this school so fast. If I see you walking down that street, we will have a problem. You will be back in homeschool. So
Will she have a phone?
yeah, she already has a phone. She's
Does
had a phone
it
since
has
she
a
was
tracker?
7. I don't know, but I'm thinking about trying to planting a tracker inside of
Yeah,
her.
girl. It's just a little
No, like just cutting her skin open
family
and
share.
sneaking it in there.
That part. No,
Okay.
I'm all about the tracker and the skin.
Yeah.
Is that a thing yet? Because
in the tags, what are they?
No, there's a family share. You
We
can
have
track
that, but what if
people's
somebody steals her
location.
phone? I'm thinking about the tags. What are they called?
In the backpack, the air tag?
Air tags. Yeah, I might put one like in her
Do
shoe.
both. Do both.
In her
Not her shoe,
backpack.
that'll
Yeah.
hurt. It's kind of big.
No, the thin ones.
It's round like this. That doesn't feel good.
No, I'll just sew it into her sole for
That's
shoe.
fair. Okay. Every single shoe.
every single shoe.
That's better than under her skin. Lucky her.
Oh yeah, listen, because again, it's not about me trusting her. It's about other people. And she did karate. I just talked to her about like taking a self-defense class. And she was like, Mom, I did that. We did take down Tuesdays every Tuesday. I was like, yeah, but you're getting older and like you need to be able to defend yourself.
Yeah.
I got her mace.
Get a refresher.
Yeah, it's a journey, guys. We're on a journey.
Yeah.
She's a 4th there. I'm probably like whatever less than a 4th is. I'm there.
Well, you let them walk to Starbucks.
I know,
first.
but I could see them.
5 times I heard.
I mean,
Kyla
that's
did
what
not need to tell you that
I
part.
said.
It's close. It's
And I
super
still
close.
had to go over. So yesterday, we still had to go over safety precautions. Me and Auntie Laura, her mother, we went over safety precautions. Like so when you go to when you walk down to Starbucks, like if somebody's grabbing you, what do you say? What do you do? Like, and it's crazy how you can still go over these things and you still need to remind them because they're like, we scream. Well, what do you scream?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like, you just don't scream for the hell of it. You need to scream that you don't know this person. You need to scream something instead of just screaming because they could think that you're playing. So we
Poke him in the eye.
clearly, like you said, what?
Poke him in the eye.
Talk about
Hit him in the
yeah.
eye.
So you still have to
the Adam's apple.
You still have to keep going through those things with them, like, and making sure. And one of the things that I even told Kyla, like, even when we park in the garage, like, I don't get out of my car. I don't turn off my car until my garage door closes. And Kyla was like, Mom, why do you do that? I'm like, because if somebody comes in, I'm off guard. Like, when you're getting out the car, you're already off guard. So if it's at night, they can swivel through there, attack you. And I said, I don't turn off my car because if somebody swivels in there, I'm backing up. Like, I'm hitting them. So it's just those types of things. Like, she just needs to also be mindful for the things like you need to protect yourself as much as possible, or figure out ways out and all those types of things as well. Like, we even had an escape plan if we were in the mall and something popped off. So like it's some those types of things, like go out this exit, I'll meet you there. Like, there's certain things that you just have to make sure that you're protecting them, even of the world. Now, I can't protect her from all things, but the things that I can control, I am going to let her know.
That's right.
I love that.
Me too.
Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for coming and hanging.
Yes.
Thank
Yay.
you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, Nala was so mad that you got to be on her before her.
Really?
Yes, she is.
Well,
like,
tell her. I was
coming.
going to say, tell her we didn't crack the code of dating, but she's married. So,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
I'm a single one. So,
We got to get you back when we have Felicia.
Yes.
okay. To tell me how
No.
to date.
Yes.
Okay.
She's good at
I'm
that.
at
She's
the
a
point
life
where I'm
coach
about
now,
to-
y'all.
To give my phone number out like Mike Jones, but you know, I'm not. I'm partially there. I'm halfway there.
Well, maybe you can find her one of your little single friend boos, and then she can move to Cali.
Oh, wait.
Would you move
Oh.
for the right, situation?
So that is great question. So Kyla is still close with her father. That's a hard one.
And he's in Columbus,
He is in Columbus, but
He can visit her.
clearly,
right? She almost an adult. So.
I know, and right, and I can actually fly her back in the summer. So I'm just kidding, but no, I don't. I haven't figured that out yet. Like
We'll cross that bridge when we get
I
to
know.
it.
I'll cross it when I get there. I'll cross it when I get there.
Okay. All right. I love this. Can't wait for the next talk with Kyla's mom. All right. That's the Mama's Den.
Bye.